Sinigang. The savory, the sour, the umami, the delicious, the very healthy Filipino soup dish that everybody in the Philippines loves. Honestly, anybody that tries it loves it. I'm gonna be making it today. And this is the pork version. So I'm excited because I do one thing that's a little bit different. So let's get right into the ingredients. One thing I love about sinigang, so many vegetables. Let's just start right here. Daikon, Japanese radish, onions, tomatoes, plenty of green beans. The girls love green beans. I always have eggplant in it. Sometimes, if I can, I get the Japanese eggplant. Today I'm just using what they labeled as purple eggplant. Lots of bok choy, and that's already ready to go. I'll show you something else I do to kind of prepare that. Serrano peppers, not sure what you guys use. I've seen different types of chilies. I'm using serrano peppers, I like it spicy. I don't actually cut these up though. This is the sinigang mix. This is how I get the sourness. I'm not using actual tamarind, I apologize. But if you know, you know. This is just so much more convenient, and it's actually really delicious. Okra. This okra is just for me. The kids aren't a big fan, so I'm gonna throw those in for myself. And now the protein. So I like to use cuts of pork with lots of bones. So there's a lot of ribs right here. I'll be chopping those up. And then these are more riblets. I don't know what they're called, but this is what's different. I like adding beef. This is 2 pieces of oxtail. And why do I like to add it? There's just a depth of flavor that you get from the oxtail that is just amazing. And any kind of beef will do this for you. The way I found out about this is I had leftover thinly sliced beef. I added it to my sinigang and it had a unique flavor that I just love. So ever since I tried to sneak beef in there today, I'm going a little bit fancy with the oxtail. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and just slice up this meat. Very simple, very easy. One thing that I don't do is I don't boil my meat. I'm curious from the Filipinos out there that cook this the traditional way, why do people boil their meat when they're preparing their recipes using really any kind of meat, but especially pork? I'm assuming it's to clean the impurities because that's what I hear people saying. But I wonder if that comes from a long time ago when there was maybe more impurities. These days, at least from the sources of meat I get, I just don't worry about that. But I wonder if that's crucial for the flavor, because I know the one thing that happens is the soup of my sinigang isn't as clear, which I don't mind because there's a lot of good flavor there. So, okay, so that's all I'm doing with these bones. I'm gonna go ahead and put these back on the tray. Just to show you an example. See all this? This is just goodness. All that's stuff that you want in your soup that's gonna make it so much more delicious and healthy. This is the first time I saw these guys at my grocery store. I forgot what they're called, but they're tiny little rib pieces. And I am just going to cut right down the middle between each bone. See, the thing is I cook my sinigang for about, I wanna say, an hour with just the bones and some of the other ingredients to get all that goodness out. So I try to get as many bones. And then oxtail, I'm not gonna do anything. I'm just gonna leave it like this. And now let's move on to the tomatoes and onions. I love putting lots of tomatoes. I've said it so many times. Tomatoes have a lot of umami in them. They're just delicious. I find that the more the better. Judy's saying I should use less, but this is my recipe. And I'm just gonna rough chop these. I'm not even worried about getting them uniformed because they will basically break apart. These in the bowl. I'll show you what I'm gonna do here in a second. I'm gonna use 2 heirloom tomatoes. So if you're wondering why they have this color, these are heirloom tomatoes. I'm not exactly sure what's the definition of them. I think these are not as heavily modified, I guess. These maybe more, I just looked it up and it said open pollinated, non-optimized, I don't know, genetically modified. What I can say for sure is way more flavor in an heirloom tomato. And normally you can only find these locally in the summertime because they obviously only grow in the summertime, and they can be quite expensive, but that's what the insides look like. So much more flavor. For the onions, nothing fancy. I'm just gonna get these sliced very thin and then add it to the tomatoes. I just mixed the onions with the tomatoes. Something I learned from Judy's father, Papa, as most of you guys know. Mix your tamarind soup mix into your tomato mixture. I don't know how much it changes the flavor or not, but I just do it. Papa's Sinigang is amazing, and I just don't question it. Boom. The rest of the ingredients I will prepare as I'm cooking because I want to get this going. And I've got my pot here. This is a really large Dutch oven. Obviously you can use any kind of pot, but this is just my favorite for really any kind of stew or soup. The meat's ready. The tomato onion mixture is ready. You also will need a lot of water. I just eyeball this and I'm gonna fill up the whole pot. So yeah, this is gonna feed 7 of us and leftovers for tomorrow. I've been warming up this pot for a while, so I will put it on probably a high heat just to get it going. But my first goal is to just sear the meat. This is probably the biggest difference from a traditional Filipino recipe for sinigang. Now, I'm not even gonna put any oil in here because there's a lot of fat on these pieces, so I'm gonna utilize that. I'm just gonna place them all in there. When I normally sear any kind of protein, I kind of want to get an even sear. Here, I'm not really too worried about it. I'm just trying to get some browning, and that is it. So I'll put it all in. Once it sears on one side, I sear the other side, and then I just leave it at that. Same thing with the oxtail, just going to sear it like that, like so. That'd be the most browning I'm trying to get. I'm just gonna go ahead and remove all this. Even like this piece right here, it didn't get a lot of browning because actually it did stick a little bit to the bottom, but that's okay. I'm trying to get all that brown goodness at the bottom of the pot into my sinigang. As I mentioned before, this is not as traditional, at least this part of it, and definitely I've never seen oxtail, but I like to really get the maximum amount of flavor out of the meat because I just enjoy it and the kids like it. That's all that matters. I'm gonna put the rest of the pork. Now that I'm cooking all this, I don't think I need both big things of oxtail. Gonna go ahead and brown these pieces a little bit, add the water. I'm gonna add the tomato mixture after that, and then I will start prepping the other ingredients. So all that stuff at the bottom, that's just flavor that I like to have in there. Gonna return the meat that I just seared. I'm gonna add the tomatoes first. I just like to do this so that the acid of the onions and the tomatoes helps to get all that stuff off the bottom. That is just pure flavor down there. Right now the heat is on a low heat, but I'm gonna go ahead and turn it up now. Now if I had a pot bigger than this, I totally would use it. Right now I'm not gonna worry about it. I may remove one of the oxtails later, but just gonna leave it for now. I can tell at the bottom, a lot of that browning is starting to lift up off the bottom surface of the pot. And it's going right into those tomato juices. Just gonna pour as much out until it gets literally close to the top of the pot, and then let it get up to a boil. I'm gonna turn the heat down to low. I am going to skim off some of this foam off the top. I'm gonna set my timer to 45 minutes. That's gonna give enough time for all the goodness to come out of the bones and cook all the meat through and make it really tender. Okay, so while that's cooking, I'm gonna prepare the other ingredients, such as the daikon and even the bok choy. If you have kids and you want them to eat the veggies, get it to a size that's easy for them to eat. So I literally get it to the point where you can fit some of the veggies onto a spoon with a piece of meat and rice so that it's just easier. I find that, after having 5 girls and cooking for kids, and this includes other foods like curries or anything where there's vegetables involved, cut them smaller rather than chunkier. So that's what I'm gonna do with the rest of the vegetables. So with the bok choy, how I prepare it for the kids is piece like this. This is fine. This is a little bit more than bite size, but it's gonna soften. It's fine. I just put it into the bowl. Got a bowl over here. Same thing with this. Something like this though, what I like to do is just cut it down the middle, like that. Sometimes I cut off the edge piece. I don't like those. And then I do sometimes just cut it like this. This makes it so, like the original piece, makes it a little bit more manageable for kids. That's all I do this for the kids. Same thing with these pieces, just smaller, easier to handle for the kids. I know it's extra work, but that's how much I love my kiddos, and that's how much I want them to eat their veggies. Nice and uniformed, a little bit smaller, easier for the kids. And I throw this in last minute, so it's also gonna cook down a little easier too. I turned up the heat just so that I could agitate the meat a little bit more. And it's bubbling and it's starting to splatter. And guess what? I got this splatter guard. This is a Le Creuset Dutch oven pot. This is an all-clad splatter guard that just happens to fit this perfectly. So I just put it on there like that, and I can have it at a rolling boil without it splattering. This is a really cool tool. I'll try my best to put this in the description, but this pot and this cover, they're two totally different companies, but for whatever reason, they fit perfectly, so yeah. Since there is a lot of meat and it's been cooking for just about 50 minutes now, I actually let it cook for a little bit longer. Naturally, a lot of the moisture has evaporated, so it's reduced down. Not a bad thing, but I want lots of soup in here. So I'm gonna add some more water back in. I really do want to get this all the way to the top. Now, obviously, if you have a bigger pot, you don't need to get it to the top. This is just a small pot compared to the onslaught of vegetables and the amount of meat that I added. So I'm just gonna crank up the heat. Maybe let this cook for another 20 more minutes. The directions I just gave about cooking this for 45 minutes, that's if you're just using pork. With oxtail, it's good to just cook it a little bit longer. Now the pork is already tender. So you could stop this right now if all you were doing was the pork. Now it's not gonna hurt it if you go for another 20 minutes, 30 minutes. The only thing that might happen is the pork just falls off the bone, which is kind of ideal actually. Then you can remove the bones, it's just easier to deal with. But what I'm trying to really cook through, this guy right here, I'm just trying to get this really tender and get all the goodness out. All that collagen, all the flavor. Another 20 minutes and then get going on the other ingredients. It's been well over an hour. I'm gonna go ahead and start adding all the other ingredients. So I'm gonna add the most firm, dense vegetables first, which of course is the daikon. Because I cut them small, it's not gonna take that long. So I'm gonna also add the serranos. Woo! I'm gonna turn up the heat just a tad. I am also going to add the okra. I mentioned this earlier. Girls aren't a fan of okra, but I love okra. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and let this cook probably for 10 minutes. Definitely need salt. And another thing I do is I usually have a second packet just in case I need to top it off. So I'm gonna add some salt and some more tamarind mix and then add the other ingredients.
Only one left. Oh my goodness.
So I added a cover just so that it would cook the bok choy and the okra a little bit faster. I can tell they're already soft. I am gonna pay attention to these serranos because I don't want it to spice up the sinigang too much. And what I'm gonna do though is try one of these daikon pieces. Wow, still need some time, for sure. I'm actually surprised because they're such small pieces, but daikon is such a hard vegetable that does take a while. This is actually getting there. I'm actually surprised the okra cooked faster than I thought it would. So I'm just gonna give it a little bit more, maybe like 2 more minutes. Aye, hot. Got a glove this time because that was blazing hot. Pretty sure that this daikon is good to go. Let me just try it one more time. Definitely soft rub. So I'm gonna first put the green beans in there, but while I'm waiting for this to finish up, I'm gonna cut the eggplant. The thing about eggplant is it will discolor. It oxidizes when the air hits it. So I wait to the very end to cut this. This is one of those recipes that I don't really have mise en place going on with all my ingredients. Mise en place just means to prepare your ingredients, and it's a French term. So this one I kind of go with the flow, not just because of eggplant, but it makes sense too. Sinigang is kind of a time commitment, so you want to make sure that you don't waste time. And of course, if I were to prepare all the ingredients ahead of time, it makes it a little easier. It's a little bit more cleaner in terms of its process, but prep as I go. I'm just gonna try this out because I haven't tried it since I added the salt. My gosh, green beans go first. Just lay them in there. So I don't put quantities for any of these ingredients because this is all based off of what you like. What is it that you enjoy? What do you want more in there? What do you want less in there? Some people don't like okra, like my kids, so you don't have to put the okra. Plus, it's what you have on hand. Sometimes maybe you don't have a certain ingredient. I don't always have okra, so. One thing I may do though is pull this guy out, the serrano peppers. I'm gonna go ahead and let that cook for a hot second. Let these float at the top. Kind of push down those green beans a little bit. Whoa, there we go. Now the beans still need a lot more time, so I am going to cover it again, checking it. Probably up the heat a little bit too. Ooh, yes. Okay, first thing I'm gonna do though, just to be safe, is I'm gonna grab these serranos. They actually feel fine. Green beans are just about good. Some of them are actually really hard. I'm surprised how hard they are. I'm gonna go ahead and mix them down there. Okra is soft. Eggplant doesn't take very long. Just pushing all those green beans down. It is basically done. Now the green beans, I would say I could have added in there maybe 5 minutes before the eggplant, because the eggplant is done. The green beans still have a little bit more left. In fact, I'm gonna take one of these out. See, the thing about vegetables, they're all kind of different depending on the type of vegetable you're using. I'm not even gonna worry about it at this point. I'm just going to add the bok choy. The bok choy, you don't really even cook. This is something I learned from Judy, which I'm kind of surprised by. You just kind of add it all to the top like this, like so, and then you kind of let it just do its thing. Judy turns off the heat at this point. I'm just gonna let it kind of get in there and then let this sit for probably 5 more minutes, and then we're ready to eat. Oh yeah, still got a little bit of a bite, but soft enough for the kids. That's really good. One more last thing though. I am going to try the soup.
Oh, that's delicious. It's
Doesn't need anything?
No. I think it's good.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah?
That's exactly what we need.
I know everyone needs this. Is it? Oh, it's 2 thumbs up. Okay, Bella. Yeah. Is it good? 2 thumbs down. Well, she's in